Hello class, today we are talking about percent of change. So we're still talking about proportions, we're still talking about percents, but we're gonna move on to this idea of percent of change. So let's define some stuff first. Percent of change is the percent by which a number increases or decreases. So if it's a percent decrease, obviously the amount is going to go down, it's going to decrease, and if it's a percent increase, obviously the amount is going to go up, or it's going to increase. So to find the steps for percent of change, it's very, very simple, I think. So you find the original quantity and the new quantity. You'll find these in the problem. You're going to find the difference. Remember, difference means subtract. And then we're going to turn that number into a percent. So we have this formula. We find the amount of change. We divide that by the original amount, and then we're going to multiply it by 100. We have a little bit of an example here. It says, determine the percent of change if you went from 110 pounds last year to 119 pounds this year. So right away, because I know it's going from 110 to 119, that's an increase. So I know it's going to be some kind of percent increase. Next, I have to find the difference. And in this case, to get from 110 to 119, that's a difference of 9. And then I'm going to divide that by 100, and I'll show you guys what that looks like in the calculator. So I'll do 119 divided or minus 110, and I get 9. I'm going to take that number and I'm going to divide it by my original amount. In this case, it was 110. And I have this 0.081818181, whatever. And then I'm going to take that answer, multiply it by 100, because right, we want to know what it is as a percent. So to change my decimal to a percent, I'm going to move 2 decimal places over, or I just multiply by 100. And I get my final answer of about 8, right? You could write 8.2, 8.18. It's about 8, right? So we're just going to go through some of these questions together. Kings Dominion charges $24.50 per person for an all-day pass. Last year they charged $28 per person. So right away it's going up, right? To get from 24 something to 28, that's a positive change, right? It's going to be an increase. They got to make money somehow. From last year to this year, what is the percent of change of an all-day pass to Kings Dominion? So the first thing I need to do is I got to figure out, how do I get from 21.5 to 28? What did I do? Well, I mean, we could subtract, right? Let's figure out what 28 minus 24.5 is. So there's a $3.50 difference. So my difference, I'm just going to write diff. My difference is $3.50. Okay, so that's the amount of change. To find the percent of change, I'm going to take this difference and divide it by the amount that I started with. In this case, I started with $24.50. So I'm going to go with my $3.50. I'm going to divide it by the starting amount, which was $24.50. Let's figure out what that is. $3.50 divided by $24.50. And I get some crazy decimal. I don't like that crazy decimal, so let's change that to a percent by multiplying by 100, and cool. It's about, well, let me write this number down first. And if I multiply by 100, I end up with about 14.28. So it's about a 14% change. Let's just keep going. The sales of an Xbox console is $483,000. Last year, the sales were $657,000. What is the percent of change from 2010 to last year? So in 2010, it was this amount. So I'm starting with this number. And I want to know, how do I get from this number to this new number? So my very first step is to find the difference. The difference is, remember, difference is a subtraction word. So I'm going to find out, what do I need to do to get from 657,000 to 483,000? Okay, that's a difference of 173,470. Okay, well, I'm not done, because if we look at our steps, we have to find the difference and then divide by the original amount. So I'm going to take my 173,000. I'm going to divide that by the amount that I started with, which in this case was that 483,000 number. I don't know why I'm writing sideways now. So again, a lot of this stuff is calculator, guys. Take my 173,000 number, divide that by my 483,000 number, and I end up with about, what, 36%, 35.8%. So just to reiterate, you find the difference, you divide that difference by the original amount, and turn it into a percent by multiplying it by 100. Got one more for us, and then you can do some independent practice. The population of Woodbridge is currently 70,035. Last year, Woodbridge's population was 76,000, and in 2012, it was 63,000. Find the percent of change from last year to this year. So last year was 76,000. This year, it is 70,000. So it looks like it's going down, right? So in this case, first step is going to be finding that difference. Clear my calculator. 76,125 minus 70,035. Okay, there's a difference. Difference of 6,090. Okay, but that's not the percent of change. That's just the difference. So what do? Take that difference, divide it by the amount that I'm starting with. So in this case, because last year came before this year, I'm going to divide by 76,125. So take my answer, divide it by 76,125, and I get a decimal of 0.08. And if I want to change that into a percent, I'm going to move it 2 decimal places, and it ends up just being 8%. And part B, find the percent of change from 2012's population to the current population. So I want to go from 63,608 all the way up to our current population of 70,035. So again, find the difference. Use the calculator, subtract, find a difference. Right away, I know it's going to be an increase. So if I take 70,035 and I subtract 63,608, I get a difference of 64.27. But that's not the answer, because I need to find percent of change. And percent of change means take your difference, divide it by the number you start with. And in this case, 2012 came before the current year, which means I'm going to divide by the older number. And I'm going to use my calculator to help me with this part. It's a lot of math to do by hand. Take my 64.27, divide it by 63,608, and I get a 0.101 number. And if I want this to be a percent, remember, you can move it 2 times to the right. You can also multiply it by 100, but it looks like it's about 10.1%. So to recap, to find your percent of change, whether it's an increase or a decrease, the steps are exactly the same. Identify the original and the new numbers, find the difference by subtracting them, and then you're going to divide that by the original amount, and there's your percent. So work on those independent practice questions, and I'll give you guys the answers in class. Thanks.